Alright, we're back. Man, that Korok was tough to get last time. It should not have been that hard. Anyways, so gonna be talking about more of the Hong Kong trip today. However, I did remember one thing I wanted to mention about the Japan portion of the trip. Remember how I mentioned that, the Japanese are pretty stern? Like, no means no, when I was told no, when I was denied entry into the Kirby Cafe. It's probably not the best way to be starting this, because if someone is hearing this without watching the context of the previous parts, they would be like, wait, what? Anyways, yeah. So I remembered another example of, the Japanese being pretty stern, like no means no. And actually, there's two examples. So aside from, like what I said before, I didn't know the Kirby Cafe needed reservations, like it was reservation only. I didn't know that, so we were told no, despite the fact that the restaurant was majority empty. Two other examples of that kind of happening. So there was, I think it was the final night in Japan. The final night, we were, we as a group were looking for a restaurant, a close-by restaurant to eat at. So we were walking around, we were, looking around, asking around. All of the places were pretty much full. And because they had no room, we couldn't eat there, so we had to keep on walking, keep on searching. Eventually, we did find this one spot pretty close by. My dad's friend, he stuck his head in through the door, be like, are you guys open? Like, do you have seats? And then, despite the fact that the restaurant was completely empty, the dude just said no. No. Like, leave. No. It's like, well, fine, if you don't want our business. It was a restaurant opened during dinner service, and the restaurant was empty, so they told us no. We had a theory on why that might have been the case. Maybe because we were foreigners and we were speaking English. They were just like, yeah, no. We'd rather no business than to serve you. Not because of the whole, what you're thinking. Probably because of, like, language barrier. Or maybe it is exactly what you're thinking. Like, oh, these guys are speaking English. We don't want to. You know what? Never mind. Wait, didn't I need to get his maracas back? Like, isn't this what I needed to do? I probably should have read what Hestu was saying, even though I've done this before. Like, isn't there a chest in here? Yeah, there. Alright, come get me. Can I get you off the edge? Oh, okay, I'll just take myself out then. So, there's one more example. We were told no despite the restaurant being completely empty. And then there was another example. You know how I told you guys that in the morning, my mom and I would walk towards the 7-Eleven because it was so close, it was walking distance? Well, on the way to the 7-Eleven, there was a little pharmacy store. Oop. And it didn't open until 10 a.m. However, like, we didn't know that, even though there was a giant sign saying, like, 10 a.m. So that was our fault. But, like, so the big pharmacy opened at 10 a.m. However, the doors were open. There was no, like, tape or sign saying not open yet. Or maybe there was, and it was in Japanese. We didn't read it. We didn't know how to read it. Whatever. It's like, the doors were open, so we wanted to go in and take a look. Because, well, the doors were open. But then, we were told, not open yet. Open at 10. Leave. I don't know. Maybe the economy's just different over there. Over here, if it's still too early... and the doors are open, people walk in, you're not just gonna tell them, leave, please kindly leave, we're not open yet, we open in 10 minutes, please come back in 10 minutes. You're just not gonna do that. Yep. Okay, the bombs clearly are not going to work. This is tough, man. These are 3 black bokoblins. I am very not equipped to take them on right now. I suppose I could just come back, you know? I don't need to get Hestu's maracas back right now. So yeah, I just remembered those 2 more examples of, you know, the fact that Japanese people and their businesses, they're pretty stern. Ah, you and your spears. Okay, I think I'm just gonna come back to this later. I know there's probably a ton of ways I could do this right now. However, I don't want to. I'll do this later on. Well, I guess I'll just come back to this later. Yep. I'll help you later on, Hestu. Okay, so let's talk about the Hong Kong portion. Get back to that. Unless I remember something else about the Japan trip that I'm forgetting to mention. So, I'm not gonna lie. You know, despite the fact that I just don't like going to Hong Kong, despite me not liking Hong Kong, I will admit this. So, first of all, the 2-week trip between Hong Kong and Japan, not gonna lie, like 2 days in, I was already pretty sick of all the Asian stuff. Like, you know, I missed being able to understand what I was reading. Especially in Japan, where there was barely even a hint of English around. You know, I really missed being able to understand what I was reading, what I was seeing. So that was actually a pretty big relief when it came to going to Hong Kong, because Hong Kong, they actually do have English. So, you know, I was pretty relieved. What? I was pretty relieved when we, you know, we were going to Hong Kong, and hallelujah, there was English again. Aside from the fact that there was way more English in Hong Kong than there was in China, not China, in Japan. You know, I'm a Chinese boy myself, so you know, whenever they spoke Chinese there, specifically Cantonese, hey, unlike Japanese, which is a language I don't understand, I can actually understand this now. So when people speak in their own native language, I can actually understand them most of the time. Half the time. Occasionally. Yeah, my Chinese isn't that great. However, you know, it doesn't change the fact that I can now at least understand stuff. There was English to read. I can't read the Chinese, but I can read the English. And also, the stuff that people spoke, I could vaguely understand. So at least there was that upside, leaving Japan and going to Hong Kong of all places. Because, you know, I don't like going there. By the way, I don't know if the mic is picking it up. It is raining really heavy outside right now. In fact, the weather for today and the next couple of days are going to be pretty crazy. It is April right now. Even though it's Canada, it is April and it is snowing. Earlier today, it started snowing. Like a really heavy snowstorm. And then later on in the day, that snow turned to rain, and then there was just a layer of ice everywhere outdoors. The news earlier today was saying that that's going to be how the weather's going to be like for the next couple of days. There's even reports of potential power outages because of it. Do I have any more apples? I do. You know what's crazy to think? The people here in Kakariko probably don't see this Korok, because remember, only people pure of heart can see Koroks. Same thing with the dragons. Is that a Sheikah slate? Yeah, it's me. I wonder what happens if you just jump in and you just go into Impa's house. Like, jump through the fence, go into the water and climb back up. Oh man, I could have tried that. let's try to look a little more presentable in front of Impa. Here, let's have a nice clean weapon to show off in front of her, as well as probably the most iconic bow in the game. Like this is the bow even on the amiibo. We'll have something presentable for the cutscene, I suppose. A man? What about the two guys that were guarding, you know, the entrance to the stairs? What do you mean a man? My name is Paya.
So, you're finally awake. It has been quite a long time, Link. I am much older now, but you remember me, don't you?
You see, I don't understand why Pokemon can't do this. You don't need voice acting in every single moment of the game, just small cutscenes like that, small moments.
Oh!
See, these parts here aren't voice acted, just a small little cutscene there was. So why couldn't Pokemon do that? Looking at you, Scarlet and Violet. Anyways. Man, Impa was so much hotter when she was younger. Have you guys seen her design in Age of Calamity? You wanna know what's crazy, actually? We're getting another Hyrule Warriors game. Because the Nintendo Direct was earlier today. I'll talk about it later on. However, I saw the text on the word and I just said it for some reason. Yeah, I'll talk about the Nintendo Direct later on. For now, I want to finish the, you know, the Hong Kong trip stories. Anyways, what was she saying?
Oh.
Can you hear the rain?
The history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages. This evil has been turned back time and time again by a warrior wielding the soul of a hero and a princess who carries the blood of the goddess. With the passage of time, each conflict with Ganon faded into legend. So listen closely as I tell you of this legend that occurred 10,000 years ago.
You know, didn't anyone ever think to find the source of Calamity Ganon? Then again, they didn't know there was a man buried underneath the castle.
Even the most powerful monsters posed little threat to the denizens of the realm. The people thought it wise to utilize their technological prowess to ensure the safety of the land should Calamity Ganon ever return. They constructed 4 mechanical wonders that came to be known as the Divine Beasts. They also built a legion of autonomous weapons called Guardians. The Divine Beasts were piloted by 4 individuals of exceptional skill from across the land. And thus, the plan to neutralize Ganon was forged.
Unfortunately, though...
upon Ganon's inevitable return to Hyrule, the princess and the hero fought alongside these 4 champions against this ancient evil. The Guardians were tasked with protecting the hero as the divine beasts unleashed a furious attack upon their terrible foe. And when the hero wielding the sword that seals the darkness delivered his final blow, the princess used her sacred power to seal away Calamity Ganon.
You know, the way Impa tells the story, it really sounds like someone telling like a bedtime story. I imagine she probably told the story in the exact same way to Paya when she was younger. You know, my sister left for her trip to Korea earlier today. She left the house around like I think 9 in the morning. Her flight was supposed to be like I wasn't even paying attention. Whoops. Her flight was sometime in the afternoon, like maybe 1 or 2. However, she actually got delayed. The plane the you know, the actual takeoff itself got delayed because of the storm earlier today. Did you guys know that now you can buy Wi-Fi on planes?
Yeah.
You know how you need to turn on airplane mode? Well, I guess not if you buy Wi-Fi access. You know, that's actually one other thing. So I mentioned the actual flight to the flight to Japan was pretty brutal. It was 12 hours. Kind of sucks to be my sister right now. The flight to Korea is 15 hours. But like, so I did not buy the Wi-Fi because honestly I didn't really need it. Because what I did was very reluctantly so. What I did was I bought a month subscription to Disney Plus. Now, I don't like supporting Disney financially these days because they kind of suck. I don't think there's anything else for me to do here.
Ah. Yeah.
Didn't I need to examine this picture? No, that was later on. Wait, hold on. Let me see my tasks again. Yeah, this one. Wait, is that it? No, okay, this one's later on. Okay, so I guess I just need to go to Hateno first. Ugh. Right, because I need to get the camera first. So I need to go to Hateno, which is that direction. I thought I would get the memory first. Never mind, I suppose it is Hateno first. So I don't really have too much of a game plan right now. More so what I want to do is I want to do more shrines before anything else, just because everything in the world can very easily kick our ass. So actually right now what I would like to do more than anything is do some shrines and get some, you know, get some more hearts. But you know, we'll do the shrines as we find them. Right, so going to Hateno, I should probably go here and then, you know, take the path like this. So yeah, I bought a month of Disney Plus subscription, and what I did was I downloaded the episodes for Daredevil seasons 2 and 3 because it was Daredevil season 2 and Defenders, because I wanted to rewatch everything Daredevil before Born Again. And I did exactly that. Throughout the trip, I watched, you know, I finished rewatching season 1 before I left for the trip. So on the plane ride, I was watching season 2 of Daredevil as well as Defenders. Now, obviously, I didn't finish the entire season. You know, I slept at times. So that's what I did to pass the time. You know, I had plenty of Daredevil episodes to keep me entertained. I had a couple of shiny hunts planned. Oh wait, may as well stick to the path. I can't wait until I get the upgrades to this stuff. You know? The bombs will recharge faster. Okay, so during the actual Hong Kong trip, we stayed with my uncle and my cousin. We actually didn't see relatives too much, you know? It was mostly that first night where we went to dinner that we saw them for the most part. And like I said before, the main reason I even went on this trip in the first place was to see Grandma. That's the #1 reason. If not for Grandma, there's a good chance I probably would not have even gone on this trip. Even if Japan, finally going to Japan was a deciding factor, you know? Oh god. Okay. I can take this guy. You know what? I don't want this. So that was the main deciding factor, going to see Grandma. Because, you know, the last time I properly saw Grandma actually was not 15 years ago. It was, you know, about 9 years ago when she and Grandpa came over here to visit us. That was also, you know, the same year that Grandpa died. He died a couple months later. If I'm not mistaken, if I have my timeline correct. You know, the order of events correct. Ooh, a fairy! That'll probably be used up rather quick. So yeah, like I said, the last time I actually went to Hong Kong proper was 15 years ago. And, you know, Grandma's not getting younger. Who knows when the next time I see Grandma will be. She's too old to, you know, make the trip over here to visit us now. Like, she's too old to endure that 12+ hour flight. So, naturally, we just would not want her to actually come over here to visit us like that. So instead, if I ever want to see Grandma, I have to go over. And I don't like going over. But you know, if the last time I went was 15 years ago, who's to say the next time I go won't be another 15 years? And, well, who knows if Grandma will even be alive in 15 years. As, you know, as bad as that is to say. Are you a Yiga?
Hey!
Oh, you're not a Yiga, you're Geralt. So yeah, that's the main reason why I went, to see Grandma. Oops, I meant to get the wood. Pause. So, you know, I did see Grandma a handful of times. As annoying as Hong Kong is to travel, you know, there's no just getting into your car and driving there. You either need to take the subway or pay for a cab, and like I said, those are expensive. I don't want to bomb this tree just because the apples might fly away, but I'll still do it anyways. Ooh, even better, the apples did not fly away. I'm not gonna bother bombing that just to get a bundle of wood. So yeah, I did see Grandma a handful of times, even if it was, you know, quite a walk. It is a fair distance walk, but you know, it's still manageable. There was a scare during the trip. You know, Grandma, there was a time where she wasn't feeling that well. Something about, like, her blood sugar levels, I don't know too much. Like, my grandma has a... You know, my family hired someone to look after her, basically. I forget the name of that job title, forgive me. So, my grandma has someone looking after her, and we were told that, yep, this is a Yiga. Oh man, my fairy! Alright, you're dead. So, long story short, the caretaker looking after my grandma called us, letting us know, like, Grandma's not looking so well.
Hi.
You know, like, the day before, she also wasn't feeling well, but then she started feeling better. Today, she looks pale, she's sweating, like, she's weak. What should I do? My uncle told her to just call an ambulance. So then Grandma went to the hospital. Which, fine, you know, elderly people, you know, it happens. So, I thought for the last time, because at this point, we were days away from leaving. So I figured, like, this might be the last time, not only do I see Grandma on this trip, this might be the last time I see Grandma ever. You know, it's not because she was weak and dying, but because, you know, who knows when the next time I'll be back would be. But thankfully, no. She got better, she was discharged from the hospital. And, you know, I was able to see Grandma one last time before we left. You know, relatively healthy and in good spirits. And yeah, that's potentially the last time I will actually ever see my grandmother. Because who knows when the next time I will go back. Who knows when that'll be. Master mode is hard, you know? Master mode's really tough, especially early on. I don't want to avoid every single fight ahead of me, but you know, it's like I'm clearly in no position to fight and win. Imagine if Tears of the Kingdom had a master mode, how hard that would be. Oh, I have to fight the Yiga again? Well, fine. Maybe I could keep my fairy this time.
Wow. Huh?
You ever notice Yigas have the same body shape between men and women? I actually felt like I dodged late there. Did I get more rupees this time than last time? Well, that actually made it worth it. And I kept my fairy. Like, if all Yiga members are male, you think they disguise themselves as women? Or do you think the women just, like, you know, have the same body shape as their male fellow members? Ooh, look, there's a shrine over there that I can do. I need to do those damn shrines, because I need more heart containers. This world is brutal. As much as it disappoints me to leave, you know, at least there's no person being harassed by them this time. I am going the right way, yeah? It's kind of hard to tell without a map. You know what I mean? So, I was able to see Grandma a handful of times. So, you know, that alone made the trip worth it. Yep. Totally worth it. So, we did indeed walk around, of course. But there just wasn't a lot for me to do. Not a whole lot for me to shop. Like, Hong Kong just... not a whole lot for me to do. I mentioned my uncle's, the mall below my uncle's what? The shopping center mall below my uncle's apartment. I mentioned that before. Oh yeah, how could I forget about this? So another thing that I really wanted to do this time, now that I'm a big boy, I'm an adult, I can actually think. Well, I can't even say think properly. Let's say think better, more efficiently than how I did 12 years ago when I was last there. So this time, something I wanted to do, some place I wanted to visit, was actually the place that my dad grew up at. Because before this trip, I never once thought about it. And I kid you not once in my entire life did I ever think, where did Dad grow up? Where was Dad born? As scummy as that is of me to say, I never thought about it. For a multitude of reasons. First reason, every time we went back to Hong Kong, my dad never really came back with us. You know, it would be with my mom. So we would stay at Mom's childhood home. So I knew where Mom grew up. Because Dad never came with us, I never thought, where did Dad grow up? Where did Dad used to live? Excuse me. What? You suck, man. You're trying to protect this village, but then you just let anyone... Whatever. Okay, so yeah, I never thought about where Dad grew up because, you know, Dad never came with us. So I never thought about it. Oh yeah, there's no gold apples in this game, are there? That's a Totk thing. That's a Tears of the Kingdom thing. There's no golden apples in this game. I guess we haven't crossbred to, you know, have golden apples yet. So, I never thought about where was Dad born? Where did Dad grow up? So this time, I wanted to go and see. It turns out, the last time I went, 15 years ago, we actually did potentially go, or at least my family did, but I didn't. Turns out 15 years ago, when I was a very stubborn, annoying, fat little boy, I was still a child. It turns out 15 years ago when, you know, the four of us went. My parents, including my dad, my sister, and I. 15 years ago when all four of us went together, my parents actually did offer us kids to go and see where Dad was, you know, where Dad was born and where he grew up, his neighborhood. They took my sister, but not me, because it turns out, based on what they told me, turns out that I refused to go. Because it was summer, it was blistering hot, and I did not want to leave the comforts of my uncle's air-conditioned apartment, so I refused to go. So my parents had no choice but to leave me behind, as they took my sister to go see where my dad grew up. So it turns out 15 years ago, I could have gone to see where Dad grew up at. However, it's not like I would have remembered anyways, you know? So yeah, it turns out 15 years ago, I had a chance to see where my dad grew up. But, you know, I didn't want to. I didn't even know at the time that's where they wanted to go. I don't even remember it, really. So now, 15 years later, my father can finally show his son, this is where Daddy grew up. This is the neighborhood, the dirty-ass neighborhood that Dad grew up. And you know, it's also a nice idea to think that this is also where Grandma, my other grandmother, was. So the grandma I went to visit was from my mom's side, so my mother's mother. My grandmother on my dad's side, so my dad's mother, is no longer with us. In fact, she hasn't been with us for quite a long time, for like 30 years. You know, long before me. So I never got to meet Grandma on my dad's side. And you know, going back to where my dad grew up, the neighborhood that my dad grew up, you know, it brings me comfort knowing just the idea, the fact that, you know, almost a century later, my grandmother's descendant would also be here. You know, it's comforting thinking that. Almost a century later, her lineage, her bloodline, her descendant would also be where she was. You know, I like that. And, you know, I'm sure my dad was happy about it too. So, around the area that my dad grew up, the neighborhood, my dad walked us around, showed us around. My dad pointed to like a store unit and told me this is where Grandpa used to have a store. So my dad's dad. My grandpa on my mom's side's gone. My grandpa on my dad's side's still here. And, you know, vice versa. My grandma on my mom's side is still here. However, grandma on my dad's side's not. So yeah, my dad pointed to a store unit. It's like, this is where Grandpa used to have a store. And then, just a little bit of a walk later. Like, you know, you turn a couple of corners, and then my mom pointed to a store where she used to work at. So it turns out my mom used to work around my dad's neighborhood where he grew up. However, they did not meet until very later on in life. You know, it's not like they had their romantic movie love story. No. You know, where, you know, he went into the store, saw this very attractive girl working there, and fell in love on the spot. No. That's not how it happened. I'm not even paying attention to what Purah's saying. Anyway, so it turns out that, like, I've gotten bits of the story every now and then about how my parents met. This time I actually did get a better detailed story of how they actually met. I knew some details, but not all of them. I have room for a torch, right? I do not. This is nearly broken. Just get rid of it. Okay, so the blue flame. Where was that again? You know, remember how in Tears of the Kingdom there's a cave underneath here? Oh my god, there's no caves anymore in this game. And you know what? It's kind of refreshing. It is actually kind of overwhelming how much there is to do in Tears of the Kingdom. Not only do you have the entire surface to explore again, you also have caves, sky islands, and the depths. Basically triple the amount of content in this game. It's crazy. Anyways, so yeah, bits of stories of how my parents met. They actually met as like being introduced by a friend. So the story of how my parents met goes like, they both had a mutual friend, I think, kind of something like that, where he kept on trying to, like, I guess introduce them, bring them together and meet. However, the two of them, their schedules were always like, oh no, we can't make it. You know, if one of my parents were like, yeah, let's go hang out, another would have been like, no, I can't make it. So these two very easily could have never met. And, well, you know, alternate history, I would not exist. So these two finally ended up meeting later on. And, well, I can't remember. It might have been at, like, a bar or at, like, a karaoke place. I can't remember. Something like that. So they hung out as a big group of friends. My parents just met. And I think the story goes like my mom lost her ring. So at first she kind of called up my dad and accused him like, did you take my ring? Like, I don't know you very well. Did you take my ring? And of course, if you were my dad, you would be kind of offended. Like, lady, I just met you. Why would I have taken your ring? So she probably left it where they hung out at. Right? Something like that. You don't need to light this torch. I think this torch, or this lantern, actually goes out regardless of if you light it or not. I'll do it anyways. So I think my mom went back to where they hung out to potentially see if she left her ring there. And I think my dad tagged along to help her. And lo and behold, my mom really did leave her ring back there. Yeah, so anyways, that's the story of how my parents met. My mom accused my dad of stealing her ring. And, well, the rest is history, you know? My sister exists, and so do I. So, yeah, talk about a love story origin, am I right? So anyways, that little rant or tangent aside, that little story aside of my parents' origin story. What else happened in Hong Kong? Let's see. Not a whole lot of shopping, mostly sightseeing. We were gonna go to Disneyland, you know, woke land. However, all of us, one by one, opted out of doing that, to the point where none of us wanted to go, so the trip was canceled. Because my cousin still had school, so, you know, we had to work around his schedule. And, like a couple years ago when my mom went back to Hong Kong with my sister, they remember my cousin dragging them, like my young cousin who would have been like 7 or 8 at the time, dragging them everywhere at Disneyland. You know, kids have more energy than adults do. My mom and sister were exhausted, but my cousin, still full of energy, was constantly like, cousin, aunt, come with me. Let's go take a look at that. Let's go play this. My mom and sister were like, oh my god, I'm exhausted. I'm about to collapse. My mom, remembering that trip, she's just like, no, I don't particularly want to go. We would only go for you. My dad also did not particularly want to go. My cousin had school, so he could have gone, he could not have gone. It wouldn't have mattered anyways. Like, he would not have really cared, to be honest. So, it was all on me. The deciding factor was on me to see if I wanted to go. And honestly, not really. You know, it would have been cool to see, but like, not really any point to bring me. Because I don't like roller coasters, I don't like rides. Not a whole lot for me to shop there, I assume. You know, what am I gonna buy? A couple of Iron Man figures, I suppose. And, once again, I don't want to support Disney financially because they are a woke dumpster fire. So ultimately, the Disneyland trip in Hong Kong got cancelled. Oh no. Anyways, there was also something else that got cancelled during the trip, and that was the China portion. So the way it was gonna happen was because my aunt has a house up in China, like actually mainland China. So my aunt and my cousin, so my aunt's daughter, my aunt and my cousin were going to take us to China. However, the trip hilariously fell apart one bit at a time. So my cousin got her period, so she couldn't go. My aunt got a sore throat, so she shouldn't have gone. The weather was forecasted to be rainy as well. The whole reason we were even gonna go up there was, aside from just my parents getting looked at by the dentist, they were gonna go up for massages. And I do not want a massage, no thank you. So I would have just sat there for a couple hours waiting for them to get their massage done. So I would have just sat there gaming, waiting for them. And you know, I also wouldn't have been able to do something like Pokemon Go, because that's banned in China. Do I go back to Kakariko now? Yeah, I do. I forgot to do the shrine there. Oops. I forgot the shrine. It's not that worth it for me to, you know, fly over like this. I just gotta walk all the way back. Whoops. I forgot the goddamn shrine there. Anyway, so the trip to China originally was going to be for 3 days. Like, we were gonna... Out of the 9 days in Hong Kong, we were gonna spend 3 of them in China. That then devolved to just a single day there because, and I kid you not, something about not wanting us to sleep in a box. Literally, that's what I was told. So 3 days turned to 1 day, turned to the trip is canceled. Once again, it's like, oh no. Anyways, I didn't really have a lot I wanted to do in China. Like, nothing really was exciting me from China. So, like, I didn't really want to go, to be honest. However, just because the trip was canceled doesn't mean they didn't still go. My mom still went, my parents still went with my dad's friends. Like, they all went together. Me, though, I stayed behind. I wasn't about to go. What else happened? So, here's something that I did not enjoy doing on the trip. And once again, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. So, and fine, I'll be honest. Fair is fair. When my parents were waiting for me to do my stuff, you know, they were waiting for me for like over 3 hours at the Nintendo store and Pokemon Center doing my shopping. And other things as well, like other things that I was looking around, other places, other stores I was looking at. I was taking my sweet ass time. You know, they had to be patient with me as, you know, they tagged along with me to do stuff I wanted to do. So it was only fair that I also did the same thing for them, that I tagged along and did the things that, you know, I didn't want to do, I didn't like doing, but my parents did. So I suppose it's only fair. But that doesn't mean I liked it. So, my dad is quite religious in terms of like the Asian stuff. He's quite traditional. So, in a single day, my dad brought us to not 1, not 2, but 3 Chinese temple places to pray at, including one under a bridge. I kid you not. You know how like the freeways have bridges? There was literally a place to to pray underneath a bridge. Like, there were people actually, like, praying. What the hell what the hell? Dude, where's the rest of your body parts?
Hey!
Oh, okay, so you actually are glitched into the ground. I was looking at you like, where are your legs? You're not even cross-legged. Okay, so you really are just glitched into the ground. So my dad, in a single day, brought us to 3 places to pray at. Now, I just have to say this because I already know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. There's nothing wrong with beliefs, having a religion you believe in. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't drag me along to it. Just don't force me to do the same thing that you do, you know? Like, you can believe in Christianity, whatever else. Like, good for you. Just don't try to preach to me about it. I don't care. Like, don't drag me to your churches, your temples. Don't expect me to pray, because I don't believe in any of that stuff. Like, you can do it fine. Like, that's something you enjoy, fine. More power to you, but just don't make me do it as well. Because I just don't care. Like, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't care. I don't want to be at this temple to pray. Because I don't believe in this stuff. My dad drags us to a Chinese temple two Chinese temples every year for Chinese New Year to pray. I don't believe in none of that crap, but because my dad does, he brings the whole family. Like, I hate it. I hate being dragged along to that stuff that I just don't care for, that I don't believe in.
Oh.
Like, once again, you have beliefs, you have religions you believe in, good for you. More power to you. Just don't make me do it as well. Don't preach to me about it as well. You know why I'm like this? It's because I was like this once, you know? I believed in God once. And I too was trying to preach to everyone else, you know, the Lord's will and all that. And now looking back, I just realized, man, that was so stupid of me. How cringe of me for doing that. Well, I'm not trying to put down anyone who actually does do that, but for me, it's just, no. Like, not for me, not anymore. So, I was pretty upset, you know? I was pretty upset, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. But once again, you know, fair is fair. My dad had to sit and be patient with me as I, you know, was taking my time looking at all the stuff I want to buy. It was only fair that I did the same thing with him, that I endured going to all those places with him. Doesn't mean I had to like it. Is there a boog on that tree? Yes, there is. There's 2! Oh, man. Oh, whatever. Wait a second. Do not forget that shrine again, dumbass. That frickin' shrine. You almost forgot again. I literally said at the top of this, what I need to do is more shrines. Well, more shrines. And you don't do them. in Tears of the Kingdom there was a big hole over there? There was a big chasm over there that led to the depths? Kind of crazy to think that right now, below our feet, majority of, you know, underneath the ground is hollow. Like, there's a whole bunch of zonai structures below us. Ain't that crazy? Ain't that crazy to think? Now that we know, having seen Tears of the Kingdom. Okay, I think this one teaches like flurry rushes or something like that. Maybe like parrying. Okay, I should probably grab a one-handed weapon for this. Right, because there are two chests right there. I guess I'll just do this first. I don't have a... Does it still count if I have no weapon, though? I was too far back. Okay, now I just need to take this thing down, I believe. Oh, no, I need to... No, this is me charging. Yeah, I kind of don't want to use this. You know what? I'll use this. So there was something that was really high on my list of things I want to do when I went to Hong Kong. It was actually something that my mom and sister tried when they went. And that was, there was a particular restaurant for, you know, dim sum. Or you know how Asian people pronounce it, dim sum? So, what they had was actually something special. They offered a 7-color dim sum. Each color of dim sum a different flavor. You know, initially I just called it gay dim sum just because of how colorful it was. My friend called it pretty patties, which I found pretty funny as well. So, you know, you had your typical like tan colored regular dim sum. You had other colors like red, green, orange, brown, black. The red one was Szechuan, which actually was my least favorite. There was other colors like orange and yellow. Orange one was crab roe. Yellow was... It wasn't lemon, I can tell you that. I forget. There were other flavors like... The black one was truffle. Oh, the chest? Good. The black one was truffle. One of them, like a light brown one, was foie gras. And I swear, am I being pranked right now? My cousins and everyone were telling me foie gras was goose liver. And I'm just thinking to myself, isn't foie gras duck liver? Goose liver? Isn't foie gras duck liver? Unless I'm tripping and, you know, I'm misremembering history. Isn't foie gras duck? Maybe it's goose over there. Like, that's a possibility too. Maybe you know, maybe foie gras is actually goose liver over there. But yeah, unless I'm crazy, isn't foie gras duck? And I tell you, like, okay, first of all, we ordered an entire set for me to try alone. Because there were 7 colored dim sums. So, you know, they wanted me to try one of each. However, it's like, well, if they wanted me to try one of each, then, you know, that means I have an entire serving for myself. So we ordered, like, another one for everyone else to have. And then we ordered yet another one because it was only 7 pieces. Whoops. So they accidentally ordered 2 additional orders. So we ordered 4 separate orders. I ate 3 of the foie gras ones. And let me tell you, man, it was rich. It was too rich. I almost threw up just because of how rich it was.